Good morning. Wow, day after Christmas, and I I got the nudge to start this like I don't know, 30 minutes ago, um, but I was being indecisive. I had no idea what I was going to cover today, and I was told to just log in and start. Um, and I had this moment of just indecision, right, where I was like, what exactly am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here again? And so suddenly I was like, well, I'll set out some candles and light those. Well, let me look into um, this thing I'm working through in my meridian system. And that's actually what I think we're going to talk about today. And I think part of the reason I was supposed to log on is so that I could have worked through it with you. But I did start the process. So I have I've been having some pain on the top of my foot on the second metatarsal, so through the second toe, the last couple of days. And so I know that's due to the stomach. That's the spot where the stomach meridian is. So I can execute acupressure flows, and every one of you can do this too, by the way. But I went to some 4 days, I think, of acupressure classes, an intensive, so like a full 4 or 5 day program where we're kind of like morning to night doing acupressure on each other and on ourselves. So it was really good for getting kind of the basic foundations of the meridians down. We learned on a subset of the 250 points that acupuncturists use. I think there was like 26 to 28 points we learned. But what it really just did is gave me experience working with the meridian system of the body. Now, for those of you who've done acupuncture before, you're going to be really familiar with the meridian system. That's what acupuncturists use to circulate energy throughout the body. For those that haven't, basically anytime you're doing tapping or touching a part of your body that feels like more tender or might maybe potentially activating, you're really circulating throughout your body the energy. So it's a really beautiful and easy way to bring things to the surface that might be stagnant or hanging in the background. So I work with acupressure more to address stagnancy, but sometimes I have actual tension or symptoms, right? That my body's talking to me, which by the way is the theme of January. Oh my gosh, it's right there. I can feel the tears just right there, right here. So this is like, if I feel the tears but they can't come out, it's the way I use acupressure. So I just take the spot where I can feel them kind of stuck. And I just gently touch that spot and I give it permission to come up, and I can feel it going around my head right now over my eye, which this is usually there's a couple different points here, so depending on where on the eye you are. But often if you're working on the sides of your head, it's the gallbladder. Which, by the way, also is the, I don't want to say responsible, but the meridian that tends to show up in indecision is one of the ways the gallbladder meridian, if it's imbalanced, can show up in your body. Headaches in the side of the head, shoulder, neck tension, outsides of the feet, outsides of the leg, lower, right below the knee. And I'm just like, whew, I'm just settling that energy. It's going back around into my stomach. One of the things I've been learning this week is I don't always have to release. When it feels like crying is trapped, I don't always have to release it as tears. It can come out many different ways. And I'm learning to trust my body to decide how to discharge it. So is it a big yawn? Is it actually a good cry? Is it just circulating the energy? I have dog sitting right now, so I have another dog here. And the two dogs are going a little crazy, so if you hear noise, that's why. There's so much in my body happening right now, so maybe that's just where we'll start. because that's where it is right now for me. What happens when your body's talking to you? I'm drinking a tea I made for holiday today. It's the tea is called Ground. It is, as of today, not on the website, but it will be in the coming year. So depending on when you're watching this, it might be posted. It's one of my, I've got about 6 teas that are in some phase of development, or they're completed but not listed. This is one of them. And Ground is a beautiful earthy tea. So it's got a lot of components that just help ground the energy. But I have it with some freeze-dried blueberries and a little bit of extra cinnamon that I made for the holidays. I made one of my pictures for a holiday party, and someone requested a blueberry tea. So I was like, oh, these things will go together beautifully. This is something you can do, by the way. You can throw any of these teas. You can steep them on fruit for a natural sweetness that's not quite as potent as putting a sweetener in, but adds a lot of flavor and robustness. So cheers to blueberry ground tea. It's iced, it's beautiful. And I'm gonna let that circulate a little bit. There's oat tops in here, carob, chicory root. Gosh, let me actually look it up. Because like I said, this is coming out, so I designed this like almost a year ago, but it wasn't coming up at first, and that's just usually an indicator something's not ready to be released. I got a yes that the energy was where it needed to be, which is good, and the flavor was beautiful, but it just wasn't coming up when I was intuitively recommending, which is really, frankly, what I use to decide what gets released. So if I'm regularly finding that, ooh, this tea would be really good for them, then that's a sign to me to release one of my teas. So I have a backlog of teas at all times that are not yet released, that have been completed, meaning I get the okay, the recipe's good, it feels good in the body, but it just wasn't ready to be released for some reason, and that was Ground. So I think I made this over a year ago. Number 1 ingredient is cleavers. Cleavers is really, really beautiful for lymphatic circulation. It's a beautiful cleanser. So I love cleavers for cleansing the system. You have chicory root, red raspberry leaf. So chicory root is a beautifully grounding. Have you guys ever had chicory coffee, like coffee replacement? That's one of the things they'll use in a non-caffeinated coffee replacement, so that it lends a heartier flavor and a more well-rounded flavor to this tea. Red raspberry leaf is in there, again, highly nutritive and really good for the reproductive organs for both sexes, so prostate and uterus. Oat tops, so this is the top part, the seeds of the oats in their things, just so beautiful. I actually am really feeling like I want to show you, but it's probably a distraction, but no, I'm getting it's not a distraction. There you go. It feels important to show you guys these. Aren't they beautiful? So oat tops are actually kind of hard to find, believe it or not. They're one of my herbs I have to get from my supplier. I can't just go random and get them. Oat straw is easy to locate. And in my teas, I use oat straw, oat tops, and sometimes both. But this one I use oat tops because it's a little bit more soothing and grounding than the straw. She's telling me she's soft right now, so she is a little softer. Sorry, I'm sitting in her energy. She's so gorgeous. Maybe that's why I needed to show her to you. She has such a beautiful energy. So oats in general are really good for nourishing the nervous system. Fresh oats, so these are going to be harvested, but if you get fresh oat, milky oat tincture, you'll see it where they take the fresh oat tops while it still has the white milk in it, and they turn it into a tincture. That is actually one of the most beautiful restoratives you can get for a nervous system. So when I had West Nile virus, suddenly feels important to tell you, wow, it's been that long. I had West Nile virus a year and a half ago. And I went through an over 9-month journey of recovery, which then kicked into my kind of ANA levels, my autoimmune, and now into, I'm kind of going through an entire healing process. And it's not just the West Nile virus, it's years of suppressed viruses and issues in my body that I'm now in the full, like, my body is upgrading is where I'm at now, where I don't have symptoms on a daily basis. Now I'm truly into full-on upgrade mode. I'm clearing detoxification pathways. I'm, up leveling my cellular structures. Like, I can feel it throughout my whole body. The first 9 months or so were really about repair. And it maybe took 5 months to get to the point where I was mostly able to function. And then even longer to get to the point where that was my chair beeping at me. I have this beautiful grounding mat. My gosh, guys, we're in a theme. Ground tea, grounding mat. So I actually have this beautiful PEMF mat. It's a pulse electromagnetic frequency mat. It's got stones throughout it, and it has frequencies that so if I want to regulate my body's frequencies, I don't need it anymore. I can actually just say I'd like to be at a 17 hertz, or I'd like to be at a 19 hertz. Ooh, that felt good. I just did the 19. And my whole body will just re-regulate now, because I've gotten to that point in my journey where, and by the way, you can too. You can too. It's really, you can do everything I can do by believing that you can and by understanding what it feels like. So a lot of the supports that I used for the first, I don't know, year of my journey, 2 years of my journey, 2 years, yeah. I don't need anymore, because, and that's one of the reasons I'm downsizing to a van. I'm giving away or selling everything I have. That's, by the way, what I'm going through this week. Oh my gosh, see, indecision. Can you see how my body's talking to me right now? I'm all over the place. But I think that's what I had to show you today, guys. It's the chaos sometimes. The theme will emerge. It emerges out of the chaos. It emerges out of the chaos. There is nothing wrong with a little chaos every once in a while. In fact, I'm getting chills as we're talking right now. The theme will emerge. It'll emerge. So milky oats was a huge restorative for my nervous system. If you guys know anything about West Nile, I had the meningeal kind that attacks the nerves. And so I had all kinds of nerve issues. Still have quite a few, like burning, tingling sensations throughout my body, places where the nerves are, they are working through what they're working through. But it was causing all kinds of things like neck lock, loss of feeling in my left side, or loss of control over voluntary muscles. So like when I smiled, like only one side of my face went up. I had blood pressure regulation issues where it would spike and then drop and then stay dropped. So I would have like a day where it would just not come over, 70 over 30, and I'd be in bed most of the day. Now, just so that you guys know, that's a level you would normally be in the hospital at, but I've had low blood pressure issues throughout my life, so I'm accustomed to being able to drop lower, and I know I'm not dying. So just, that's low. That would be, if they ever came and took my blood pressure while I was that low, I would be shuttled off to the hospital. But again, I've had a lifetime of having low blood pressure, so I kind of know where my lines are and how to cope with them and deal with them. I was having arrhythmias. It's just every time the ambulances would come, they wouldn't get that. So then I finally bought a Cardio Mobile, and I was getting the cardiologist reviews on those so that I could basically figure out my arrhythmia patterns, because they were coming and going throughout the day, but of course not coming the 30 seconds that the technicians were there. So it's kind of like my body was all over the place for a couple of months. And milky oat seed was one of the first herbs I was comfortable going back on. I went through like an entire purge period where I went off of everything, went to a doctor, and when I kind of recognized what was going on, I started myself on milky oat seed. And when I went back to the doctor and started on the series of herbal protocols plus energy work that ended up getting me through the I would call it more urgent phase of the West Nile virus, getting me to the point where I could function fairly normally again as a human being. Thank goodness for my naturopath, who is the one who diagnosed, by the way, the West Nile virus. Milky oat seed was just a gorgeous. I think I took it for a month, 2 months, something like that. Like, you usually take it for a month. It is a very calming, nervous system restorative. So it has the ability to rebuild. There's only a few herbs that have the ability to like fully restore and repair your nervous system that are regularly used. Motherwort is one of them, with more of an affinity towards the heart's electrical wiring. Also really good for the liver, and milky oat seed. So those are two really good ones if you're looking at a nervous system restorative to start to think about and work with, depending on what you need. And motherwort is really good if you're, again, there's a reason it's called motherwort. It's the mothering herb. So for mothers that need mothering, motherwort is absolutely beautiful and nourishing. I've recommended her to many of my clients going through acute nervous system and health issues that are coming together as one. I'll have them take motherwort for a while to remember what it feels like to be soothed, to be nurtured, to be cared for. It's also really good for the liver, really good for the heart, really good for if your nervousness kind of shows up in heartbeat, patterns. So motherwort is one of the ones that I've used on and off throughout my journey when I need to remember that I'm loved. She's hanging out now too. So when I talk about an herb, guys, what ends up happening is I connect with that herb energetically, and that herb and I have a little moment. I can feel them throughout my body, feel their spirit. It's one of the reasons I don't actually need to take herbs as often anymore, because like in therapeutic doses, because I can benefit from their amazingness just by calling them in, and you'll have the same relationship over time as you start to work with different energies. Right? And you become more energetically attuned. It's one of the things that you can experience as well. So again, oat seed, that felt important. And that was because of the grounding. Again, full circle back. So wild yam root, lady's mantle, chrysanthemum, cardamom, carob, motherwort. Look at that. Motherwort's in this tea as well. Cinnamon and a tiny bit of licorice root, which is ironic. It doesn't taste sweet at all, but that's because I have it only in a 1% amount. So 1 to 2%, you won't notice it. I only have one tea that has a decently high percentage of licorice, and that's Lucid. And it is way higher than I personally prefer. But for those of you that are used to drinking teas, like Yogi brand teas that have that like real sweetness in them, you'll get that from Lucid. So there are some people who just love that tea. I'm not a sweet tea person, so most of my teas are unsweetened. They don't have stevia or licorice in them. That's partly because they're used so heavily in the marketplace, and again, I'm wanting to expose people to different herbs and different options, and then you can always sweeten it to your tastes. So that's a big reason why I go with these kind of clean, pure tastes without a lot of added sweet flavors. But licorice is beautiful for increasing I think I ended up putting her in to actually, so ground was one of the few teas I designed that was too grounding. Meaning it's the few teas that I designed that was off the first time I formulated it. It was like all my energy sunk, because cleavers is such a downward flow. Cleavers is beautiful, but it flows things down and out. It is such a beautifully grounding herb that my head got a little fuzzy because all my energy was going down. So I had to reformulate it to just bump a little bit up and clear the back of the head. So I put a few herbs in there that weren't in there before, changed some amounts. I think if I remember right, licorice might have been to help with that, to help just bump things up a little bit and rebalance it out. I can't remember. It's one of the reasons I put it in there. A little bit for flavor, and then harmonizing. So I was just asking myself why I put that in the recipe. Sometimes I don't, my notes aren't as detailed as I sometimes would like. But thankfully, my intuition captures the information. So, so it's a harmonizer as well. So licorice helps things dance and play together better and more effectively. It's called an adjuvant, is the term we use in clinical herbalism, for something that helps accentuate the efficacy of other herbs and or helps them harmonize more effectively because it helps the body process them more effectively or differently. And so licorice is one of those. Lobelia is another one. So there's a handful of herbs that are really good to put in small amounts in blends. And that's why, between that and the sweetness, that's why you're going to see licorice in just so much. It does have, licorice is beautiful. It's energizing. It's great for me because my blood pressure runs low, but it's also something I use when I feel the call, because it also does rebalance out your potassium and sodium levels, and so can increase your blood pressure and reduce your potassium. So being super aware of your electrolyte levels when you're using licorice is just important because it's in so many things now. And so I like to just, again, follow your intuition. If your body's saying, yes, I want this, have it. If not, don't. Because it is one of those things that's used so widely and so much. And it is an electrolyte. It does play with your electrolyte balance in the body. And so whenever you're having that, just awareness is key, right? Awareness is key. And that's my philosophy for every herb. That's why I have such a large variety of herbs I use in my teas. That's why the percentages are smaller of a lot of them, especially the ones that can have some of those effects in your body, because I really want you to be in a position where you feel super comfortable drinking this tea and it's therapeutic for your body, and not adding an additional strain or load on it. So keep feeling. You know what's good for you. So that heart is coming back up right now. I can feel the tension. And we're going full circle back to what is in that heart. So my heart's glowing right now. I can see it glowing. It's got like a golden glow hue around it, but there's also my cartoon heart, I call it. The pulsing pink red cartoon heart, which tells me there's some emotional things that are coming up. It's traveling down into the stomach. And it's expanding out. And if you feel like following along with me, guys, please do, because a lot of times what's coming up for me isn't just coming up for me. It might be coming up for you too. So whenever I'm working on my own energy, please follow along. You can get some benefits out of this too while you're listening to this in the background, sipping your own cup of whatever you're drinking in the morning. I already had my coffee. Like I said, I still have a cup of coffee every morning. I love it. It's part of my morning ritual. And coffee is a plant too, as I like to tell people. So I'm feeling it here, which is back to the gallbladder meridian. So let's talk to the gallbladder. See what's going on. I'm just saying, hello, hun. How are you doing? And I can feel there's just a power emanating. And frustration is what I feel, but with tears, I'm just asking her, is this mine? It's not. It's the world's. So because of when we first start by listening to our body, we're just hearing our stuff, right? Stuff we've absorbed, stuff that's shared with others, stuff that's in our own field. But as you do this work more and more and more, your field expands. And that means what you come in contact with is more and more global and collective, which is why if you heal yourself, you heal the world, guys. Because what starts with you ripples out. Oh, I'm getting chills. If you heal yourself, you heal the world. Because what happens is as you expand into greater definitions of who you are, who is you, you start to touch energy that's outside of you, and eventually you touch collective energy. Well, not even eventually. You start touching collective energy pretty early, but it very rapidly goes out. So when I'm working on things, it's something in me is vibrating off of something in the collective, and now I'm mutually healing a shared wound. So not everything that I'm healing is just mine, if that makes sense. It's shared. And the definition of what that means goes out further and further. I'll be sitting in a room and suddenly feel tears. And if I'm sitting next to one of my more seasoned experts in this industry, so somebody who's been doing this work for 15, 20 years and can really see the movement of energy in a room in a pretty clear way, they'll say, oh, well, you were just helping that person over there or that person over there, or actually I saw an entire ripple over that side of the room. There was something shared that was going on that entire side of the room. So you start to, your own stuff vibrates to the surface, connects to anything else in the room, and then you heal it collectively. So when I first started, I was very focused on understanding when and where this emotion was coming up in my journey. But once I let go of that and allowed myself to be more abstract and just recognize it was there and allow it to be, I was able to start to move energy on a much bigger level and affect my health and well-being in a much bigger level, as well as others much more simply. And that's really what happened this week. And finally, I'm getting clear. This week was one of those full circle weeks where I'm hanging out with my kids. We're having really deep, beautiful conversations over the holidays. It was a beautiful, unifying Christmas. We celebrated together, which we didn't last year. Our journey's been a journey, we'll just put it that way. But this year, we just came together as a family and had an amazing Christmas. My son got me a beautiful amethyst that's going to go on the dash of my van. He actually went to a metaphysical store for me. Like, way to mom's heart, right? Researched stones on his own, picked out what he wanted to get me, went to a store to buy it, met me where I was. And that's just such a beautiful thing. So if you're ever watching this, Alex, thank you. I know I told you thank you, but thank you. And it was a beautifully unifying holiday after all of the bumps we've been through as a family. And yes, we have been through some very, very big bumps. So it's one of the things I tell my clients is I got to this work honestly. But as we were having these really beautiful conversations, I was reminded that doing the work on myself helps other people do the work, helps other people find their healing. I was seeing just in a couple of years how much progress we've made as a family. And a lot of my work was actually focusing less. I know this sounds really funny, but it was focusing more on my own healing and a little bit less on theirs. And I was able to help them more through their healing because I was attaching too much to their own journey. When I was so focused on their healing, I was attaching to their journey. It was a form of codependence, right? And so by really focusing on my own journey and then how do I show up for them? How do I work through any attachments I have to them? I mean, I regularly do energy work on myself as it relates to my kids. Like, instead of doing the work on them, I'm actually doing the work on me. Where am I holding them back? How can I support them energetically in this moment by supporting and growing myself and healing myself? And I think there's a lot of people who need to hear that. Because there's a lot of times that we think the pathway to helping other people is doing the work for them, but it isn't. It's really doing the work for ourselves and recognizing where we intersect with them And then we move and shift their energy to make it easier for them to find their path, because we're releasing any sort of weights we've placed on them unintentionally, because we do. I mean, as parents, right? And jokingly say sometimes that, our job as parents is to, we put a lot of the burdens on our kids that help them find their healing, right? Because we're their earliest exposure. So, and to be a perfect parent is not, right? It just doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. Just physically impossible. And so a lot of the traumas our kids experience are going to be, somewhat through us. And so accepting that, doing the best that we absolutely can, being self-aware, but doing our own work is really how we give them the best leg up, because not only do we help them, we help model what it means to heal, but then we help them heal in the process. And I keep saying do the work, but I just want to reemphasize that it's not hard. That's a mistake that I made for years, is thinking it was hard. I won't even say a mistake. It was exactly what I needed at that point in my life. But it was actually turning that idea over on its head, putting it on its head, and realizing that it doesn't have to be hard, that helped accelerate my journey exponentially. Ooh. And that's what I'm so excited to cover tomorrow morning. I have my next workshop. And I'm really excited for that, because it is all about timelines and thresholds, and playing with different probabilities and timelines, and learning to reinvent our relationship with time. I just gave away my hourglass. Shortly after I started this journey a couple years ago, I had several visions of hourglasses. So the first one happened during a ketamine therapy session. I think I've talked about that before, but I did. Ketamine therapy was a huge unlocker for me. And actually going back, I now recognize that much of the experiences I had in ketamine therapy in those 9 or 10 sessions, whatever it was that I had over a year, much of those moments that I had were actually metaphysical. It's actually quite hilarious now. So for instance, the very first ketamine journey I had, I fell through 7 bodies before I landed in my body, and I trusted that my body was going to be there, that it was going to hold me, even though I kept falling through. And so the big message I took away from that is safety is trusting yourself, and trusting yourself is loving yourself. So I had a series of 2 journeys back to back where I learned this, and this was really important for me because I didn't feel safe at the time in my environment. So this was about, how do I create safety for myself in an environment that isn't always safe. And that was a huge, huge breakthrough for me. What I did not realize, I painted it immediately after 7 bodies. I had no idea until later that a lot of ancient belief systems were that there were 7 light bodies or 7 energy bodies. I didn't figure that out till I think a few months ago. So a lot of the things I experienced in my ketamine therapy gave me a taste of what I can now do without any sort of outside assistance. It's almost like showing me it showed me what's possible, so that I could create it in my physical life, and then I didn't need it anymore. I still remember when I knew I was done, I basically puked my guts out. It was an amazing ketamine therapy session, and then I puked I purged and purged and purged, and I basically heard a voice saying, okay, you're done. This medicine has had its role in your journey, and you don't need it anymore. And that's a lot of what we go through. I'm getting chills again in our journeys, is there are outside supports. Even my teas, guys, might be periods. Some of you may date my teas for life, but I have many people who have life-changing experiences. I had one person on a single bag of tea. I gave them enough to make a 3-day supply. So like a liter, and they drank a cup a day. They went through the liter in 12 ounces a day roughly for 3 days. And they said it was a game changer. The clarity that it brought to their life the way it clarified their relationship they were in. They were able to make some really big moves in their life, and that's what they needed. So there is going to be times where you're going to date outside supports for a little while. One of the reasons that I'm constantly changing external providers or specialties that I work with is because I'm dating all of these different approaches so I can learn from them. But once I learn from them, I can create that energetic outcome off in myself without the external supports. And you may have the same, right? There's going to be times that you experience an external support because it's helpful for you, and then you're done. So after that journey, I knew I was done, and I have not worked with ketamine for a long time. I think it's been almost 2 years now. Because ketamine therapy was actually the year leading up to my transformation. So I had my big transformation exactly 2 years ago, and ketamine therapy helped me in the year prior to that. So I think I had 1 or 2 more treatments after my big transformation started, and then I didn't need it anymore because I was working with the energy. I was getting everything I needed from that. And that was a beautiful moment. So let yourself experience outside supports, and then let yourself release them when they're over. They don't have to be permanent. In fact, it's better if they're not, because you're growing, right? You're growing. So what once served you won't always serve you. We're going to go back to the gallbladder now. So if you're with me right now, let's do some meridian balancing and some meridian exploration. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go because I did quite a bit before, but what I'm now feeling is it's like in the mid digestion, but not in the chakras, interestingly enough. Anyways, in the middle of the digestive, in the middle of the abdomen, I'm sensing a light is forming, and it's like a white light with some colors mixed in, kind of like a, not going to say diamond, because it's like I see rainbow colors in the white light. And I want you to let that light expand throughout your body and bathe in. I got a text from someone in my life this morning, a family member of mine, who was asking for support on their lower back, and they're to the point where they're mostly doing their own energy work as well. Most of my loved ones get to that point because, again, I'm more of a teacher. I help empower people to work on their own energy. So it just naturally, they text me last over time, and it's beautiful. I love seeing people just soar and fly in their own understanding of their body. And so every once in a while they'll send me a, hey, I'm feeling a little stuck, and I can feel that what we're doing today is somewhat connected to that too, and supportive. So if you're listening, I love you. See, sometimes what I'm working on is supportive to what someone else is working on. And if they get a ping to text me, it's often because what we're doing is mutually supportive. And that is the crux of what I need to share today. If it serves you, it serves the collective. The theme in the last couple of days seems to be this idea of compromise. Like, oh, I have to compromise what I want for someone else to be happy. And I want to turn that concept on its head, because you don't have to. My daughter and I were actually talking about this yesterday. If it's truly what's in your highest and best good, then it is also in the highest and best good of everyone else, because remember, there's an entire orchestration process going on between our subconsciouses, our spirits, and our souls. Oof. There's some good energy that just moved. And that orchestration process, they're lining up, right? There's so much more outside of this body, right? And the small portion of the conscious mind that you're working with. And that part of ourselves is connecting with all of these other functions and spirits, right? So why do I feel the oat seed when I pick up the bottle? How can I sense what it is that someone else in my life needs, right? We're all in communication all the time. Why do you pick up the phone and call someone? Why do you get that urge? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. The timing is perfect. Has that ever happened to you? Or where you think about someone and then suddenly they are texting you? That's because there are so much more to us than the tiny percent that we consciously understand. What's under the tip of the iceberg is so beautiful. It's so vast. It's so big that if we tried to comprehend it all on a logical, linear level, we would lose the wonder of it all. How big it is, how impactful it is. And so when you think about it that way, there is an entire world orchestrating. So you and someone that you're in a relationship with where it's not going well, where you're fighting or something like that, chances are pretty good that you have something to experience and they have something to experience. And so you've attracted the situation, you've been attracted to each other because you're both learning, growing, or receiving from it. Once you can figure out what that is, you can then break the pattern. Because once you've both received whatever it is that you need to receive, or once you have received whatever you need to receive, then you can either shift the pattern, change the pattern, or leave, right? Or whatever it is that you need to do to be able to pursue what's best for you next. And then that also is giving this person a gift, even if they don't feel it or experience it. Their higher self is like, okay, we needed this experience so we can grow and learn. So how are we going to grow and learn from it? So when we start to see that all of these interactions are actually for our highest and best good, the judgment falls away. When the judgment falls away and we can forgive ourselves and other people so much more easily and have compassion, we start to advocate for our highest and best good. We start to understand our highest and best good at a different level. And with every level that we grow and learn, we're able to touch a larger amount of energy, right? Collective energy. We're able to incorporate more and more people's highest and best good in our highest and best good because we are releasing the veils, the illusions every time we grow. So if your desire feels very surface level, that's okay, because once you get through that and grow and evolve that, then it'll get deeper. And it'll get deeper and deeper and deeper and wider and wider and wider until the impact you're having when you follow your heart's desire is so big you will not be able to imagine it. I was on the phone with a client this week and she goes, I just had this awareness that what we're doing here is rippling out so much further than the two of us. She could feel for the first time the ripple effects of how working with herself, pursuing her heart's desires, could create waves that move through the world. You don't have to compromise or sacrifice what you want to serve. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The deeper you understand what you desire and what you want, the more you have the capacity to serve, and the more those desires serve others. So instead of focusing on figuring out what everyone else wants, really understand what it is that you desire this year. Because we're heading into 2026. What do you want that to look like? know that I want freedom, simplicity. I keep looking over here because I gave away my favorite plant from my healing space yesterday. And I mean, that plant, there was a line of people who wanted that plant. So guys, plants grow really well in my house. Before I did this work, I was a brown thumb. Now, when my daughter gets a bouquet of roses from a grocery store from someone for like, she's in theaters, so she gets a bouquet of roses usually, or, you know, flowers every couple of months, and they don't die. I have a bouquet from a month ago sitting on the table right now. Half of them have budded and started to grow new leaves. I do not put plant food in the water. We barely keep enough water on the bottom. We realize it's drying out and quickly add more. That's how happy plants are in this house. Because of the work that we do, because of the way we connect and bond with our plants, with the energy in the space, and again, I'm sure there's an entire orchestration process of things helping those roses be successful, but this is the second bouquet in a row that this has happened. And it's really funny because the person who's been giving her the bouquet gives other people bouquets too, and their bouquets are all dead. And everyone's like, Penny, why does yours keep doing that? Like, well, you want to talk about the energy. So I had this plant in the corner that was growing a foot every week. Like, it was a vining plant and it was exploding. I had vines growing up the window, vines growing across here. It's definitely like strange not having the vines there. But I think it keeps coming up because I need to talk about it. Letting things go. Letting things move on. When I checked yesterday like 4 times, I got a yes, bring it over, bring it over. And I think it was as much about me letting go of it as it was about it moving on. I had to do some energy work around letting go of that plant. She's been like my buddy in this office. I mean, every time somebody comes in to get energy work done, they're like, ooh, can I have that plant? I've given away so many cuttings. I actually did take about 4 feet off the end of her hair because she really is like an entire mop of beautiful hair. So I took the end off and I put it all in water with an aloe stem because aloe has a natural rooting hormone in it. We're going to see if that helps. I'm rooting out a bunch of them so I can replant them and give them away because I had so many people that wanted that plant. So I'm like, well, I can't give it to everyone, so I'll give it to someone and then I'll root it out. But this is an example of working with the space around you, working with the energy around you. And it's an example of letting go of something that serves you when it no longer serves you. For the last 2 years, I've relied on outside supports to balance my body. And over the last couple of months, the message I've heard loud and clear is you do not need any outside supports. You can do all this on your own. That ache and pain in the top of my foot is gone. Spleen, stomach, gallbladder, meridian balanced. They need a little bit more TLC, but I can do that after. So it's time to let everything go. Time to let most things go. Last week I downsized my jewelry, gave away all my bracelets, sold my gold ring. And that's something else I need to tell you guys. I thought I was going to be giving away everything, but then suddenly I got the nudge to start selling things. And so I sold like 4 or 5 things. Someone's actually coming to pick up something now. And almost everything sold immediately. And through the process, teas were handed out, new relationships were made. Like everything that was sold for a reason now, and I know it. So follow that desire. Like if like I said, I had this sense I was going to give away things, but I knew there'd be a couple things that would sell. So I was really surprised when last weekend it was like 5 different things that I got the nudge to list. But through that process, grew so much. These things got into the hands of people that really needed them. And I made connections for my tea, and I sent some good juju out in the world. And I processed my own need to release this idea of what I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to use. Because again, I'm scaling back to very, very little so that I can rebuild back from a space of lightness, simplicity, and freedom. And also so I can live for a while knowing that I have everything I need inside of me. I need very, very little outside of me. And I should say that with physical. Energetically, there's so much outside of me that I work with. But what's outside of me is also in me. Because when I follow my heart's desires, I am serving the whole. So as we head into this new year, that's, I think, the key message that I would leave you with. When you follow your heart's desires, you are serving the collective. You are serving the world. You are serving others in your life. You are changing the world. But it starts with you. And believing that you have everything that you need. And it's also okay to lean on external supports as you get there. I do. In fact, I'm working with this beautiful Zyto practitioner now. He's been doing a great job of helping me kind of narrow in on where the next phase of detoxification and transformation is happening in my body physically. So just as I've let go of acupuncture and massage and some different things that I was using for a while that I don't feel like I need anymore, I'm leaning in even more heavily to things like the Zyto. And I needed to say that because someone in here needs to look into Zyto. So if you're getting like a nudge right now, look into it. Or, reach out. I can help you find someone. Take the leap is what I'm hearing. Someone in here today needs to hear that. Take the leap. Take the leap. I don't know what that leap is, but you do. And with that, happy holidays. And I will see you next week.